Hello students, how are you? As yesterday I have promised you that today I will start the next chapter, that is a weathering. The name of the chapter is weathering and the denudation. Okay, but as you know, the denudation part has been deducted by the council. So we will just discuss the first portion of this chapter, that is weathering. Weathering, the term relate with the weather. That means here we will discuss about the activity of the weather which influence or which create their activity on the earth's surface. As we know, the earth's surface is consist of the different type of land features. That means somewhere there is a mountain, somewhere there is a hill, somewhere there is a plain, somewhere there is a plateau. Okay, so different part have the different type of the land features. Those all land features definitely made by the rocks. This rock is the parent material of that particular type of the land features. Okay, the rocks we have already discussed that there are three type of rock, basically the igneous rock, the sedimentary rock and the metamorphic rock. Igneous rocks, which is directly made by the lava. The sedimentary rocks, when the rocks weathered by the weathering agents, they divided into small pieces and they create as a sediments. The rocks made by those sediments, it's called as a sedimentary rocks. And the metamorphic rocks, the igneous rock and the sedimentary rocks, sometimes it change due to the overpressure and over the heat and create a new type of rock, that is called as a metamorphic rock. Now I must discuss about the land features, how they develop. The land features develop by the internal forces and the external forces. Internal forces, what are the internal forces? Internal forces, those forces are working just inside the earth's surface, and external forces are those forces, those are working on the above on the earth's surface. Okay, internal forces, we cannot see the internal forces, but external forces we can see or we can observe the external forces. So what will be the examples of the internal forces? The example of the internal forces may be a volcanic eruption, maybe an earthquake, etc., or maybe a plate tectonic also. In the other hand, on the external forces, what are the examples of the external forces? The different weathering agents, that means the water, temperature, they are the external forces. Also, the river, the glacier, the wind, the ocean currents, they are also known as an example of external forces. Now coming to the weather. At the beginning of the chapter of this video, in this video, I told you that weather, the term weathering is related with the weather. It is directly related with the agents of the weather. So what are the agents of the weather? Definitely the agents of the weather are the temperature and the rainfall or the humidity. Rainfall is a part of the humidity. Okay, here we will discuss as a temperature and the rainfall. Temperature, the different type of temperature, that means the high temperature, the low temperature, the different amount of the rainfall, high amount of rainfall, low amount of rainfall. This creates a differentiate activity on the earth's surface or on the rocks. Okay, as you know, the rocks made of the different minerals, so the different minerals have the different capability to absorb the temperature and as well as the moisture. So all the rocks on the earth's surface get eroded by these weathering agents. Okay, now we will discuss about the term weathering, erosion and the gradation. Okay, let's see the board. First one, weathering, erosion and gradation. Here we will discuss this one first. Weathering is the gradation. Weathering is the gradual disintegration of rocks by the atmospheric agents. Gradual disintegration, what do you mean by the gradual disintegration? Gradual disintegration means the height in decreasing gradually. The height of the earth's surface decreases gradually, okay, or the constantly. That is called the gradual disintegration. But what are the methods by which agent or the which factor it's gradually decreases, the height of the earth's surface gradually decreases? These atmospheric agents. What are the atmospheric agents? I have already discussed you, that is the temperature and the humidity. Okay. Next, that is erosion. Erosion is the wearing away of the rocks by agents on the earth's surface. That means after weathering, the dust particles or the loose particles of the rocks which develop by the weathering, when they moved away or washed away from that particular place where it take birth, that is called as a erosion. So what will be the difference between weathering and erosion? Weathering, the dust, after the weathering, the dust particles used to stay on that place. But in case of erosion, they move away or they wear away from that particular place where they get eroded or where they get weathered. Okay, so these both factors happen by the atmospheric agents. In case of weathering, the atmospheric agents like the temperature and rainfall, actually the humidity, they create their activity or they do their activity. And in case of the erosion, the river work, the work of the river, the work of the wind, the work of the glacier, the work of the ocean currents, they used to activate the erosion. So weathering in erosion, they are interrelated. But there is a clause also. It doesn't mean that the weather, where the weathering will happen, simultaneously the erosion also happen. Okay, it is not the appropriate one or it is not the universal truth. But where the erosion will happen, that place definitely got weathered. Okay, understand? Again I am telling you, it is not a universal truth that weathering and erosion both are the same process. That means where the weathering happen, there may be erosion happen or not. But where the erosion happen, that place already got weathered by the atmospheric agents. Now coming to the next, that is gradation. The dynamic process of rocks materials has to be broken, that means eroded, transported and deposited is called as a gradation. That means the total process, a rocks get weathered and they eroded from that place, this total process is, in a one word, it is called as a gradation. The dynamic process, it's a dynamic process. That means it's not a chemical process. It will happen physically. Okay, physically. The material has to be broken. First one, it has to be broken, the rocks materials. Then it has to be transported. It has to be transported in some other places. And lastly, it has to be deposited. And that total process is called as a gradation. Okay. So gradation is the process, actually the outside or the outside of the relief of any relief. Okay, understand? So these are the three topics. Next we will discuss the different type of the weathering. Now we will discuss about the different type of the weathering. See the board. Different types of the weathering. Sorry, there is a different types of the weathering. Where weathering can be categorized into two main types, that is disintegration and decomposition. Disintegration, that means the physical weathering, and decomposition, that means the chemical weathering. Okay, disintegration and decomposition. Now let's discuss the disintegration and the decomposition. In case of disintegration or the physical weathering, that means the change happens with the physical. Okay, there the change happen with the on the rocks, that is only related with the physical. Okay, there is no others materials develop. But in the case of decomposition, when the weathering happen, the decomposition, that means the internal changes happen in the case of the decomposition, that is called as a chemical weathering. Okay, so in the case of physical weathering, that the physical breakup of the rocks into a smaller fragments. This type of weathering is called as a physical weathering or the mechanical weathering. But in case of decomposition or the chemical weathering, refers the change, decomposition of the chemical weathering refers in the chemical changes of the composition of the materials present in the rocks. New materials formed and these gets separate from the other minerals and rocks break up into a small fragments. Decomposition of rocks is also a chemical weathering. So what we understood, the difference there is a no chemical changes in the disintegration, but there is a chemical changes in case of the decomposition. Okay, now let's discuss about the difference between the physical and the chemical weathering. Okay, physical weathering, in case of the physical weathering, see the physical breakup of the rocks. Okay, physical breakup of the rocks. Here the physical and chemical breakup of the rocks, both physical and chemical both. Okay, chemical that does not mean only the chemical, but simultaneously it is also the physical as well. Next, number 2, there is no changes in the chemical composition but only the physical. Okay, next point, here the both changes, physical and chemical, took place and also new materials formed. Okay, by the help of the chemical weathering, they are used to new materials, new type of materials formed. Okay, next class we will discuss about the detail on the physical and the chemical weathering. Till then, bye bye.